Hi, Elaine here. Today I'll share how to create a great looking habit tracker in Affinity Publisher. I'm still using the same planner from the recent videos. Yes, still. But you can create this habit tracker in any file you like. I am going to get a blank page. This happens to be A4, but any size will work for this. You'll just have to adjust the sizes as needed. I'm going to need 9 circles to make this work. So drawing a circle out, and I happen to know that the size of this, it needs to be 190 millimeters. The reason for that is that my page is 210 millimeters wide. I have margins of 10 on either side, so 190 will fit within my margins. That is my first circle. As I mentioned, I'm going to need 9 of them. You would imagine that Power Duplicate would work brilliantly here. Spoiler alert, it doesn't, but I will explain why. Before I start duplicating, I need to make sure that the circle that I have, the single circle, I click in the middle there. So when I duplicate it, it will be duplicated around that point. Command and J gives me my second copy. And I know that I need to reduce the size of this by 2 centimeters, which is 20 millimeters. So instead of 190, I need that to be 170. That is absolutely perfect. My next circle needs to be 150, and the next one 130, and the next one 110. So in effect, what I would be doing is taking off 20 millimeters from each circle. And this is where Power Duplicate doesn't work. So at the moment, I have my 170. I do need 2 copies at 170, but I'm going to go back and do that later because I'm in the middle of the Power Duplicate. So I have my next copy, that's my third, and 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. The reason I'm not going for the 9th is I don't want it any smaller. But these are not the right size. And this is because Power Duplicate, the scaling is cumulative. So if I were to take off 20, which I did, the scaling is applied to each duplicate in turn, but it doesn't take off 20 millimeters. It makes it progressively smaller based on the size of the last one. And as you can see, these are not equal. So what I would need to do, this is my 190, this is my 170. Now my 170 I actually need 2 copies of. So I'm going to go in there and put 170, but I'm going to put format on that and come back to it. This one is my 150, but if we look at the transform panel, it's not 150. So I need to go in and put 150. I need to go to the others, and again this one should be 130, and it isn't 130, but I know what all the sizes of these need to be. So that one is 110, this one is 90, that one is 70, and the final one is 50. So now I have almost all my circles. I say almost because I need to duplicate this one, which is my 170. So I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to rename it from format to text. We will come back to that later. But there are all my shapes. Now my 190 is only for reference, so we don't actually need to see that one. So first thing to do with that is to hide it. And that leaves me the ones we will actually be working with. Now, aware of what we're trying to make, we only need 3/4 of all of the circles. The easiest way to deal with that is to use the rectangle tool and put a rectangle from the middle of the circles up to the top of them. It has no fill at the moment, but it does have a stroke on it. It doesn't need a stroke, but in the fill, it does need a white fill. And that will cover up the top left quarter of the circles. Now I say it will cover up. If we zoom in, it needs to be fractionally wider, both on the left-hand side and the top edge, unless we apply a stroke to it, which wouldn't be black, it would be white, and make it just wide enough so it covers that. And the same will apply at the top, just about right. Now I have a document palette that I intend to use for this. So back in my swatches, I am going to use the burger menu to import a palette as a document palette. And the palette is called Sweet Paprika. And these are the colours that I'll be using. Now you need to be aware that even though this was imported as a document palette, and actually it was exported as a document palette as well, none of those colours are at the moment global colours. You would need to go through them, right click and make global. So I'm going to do that for each and every one of them. Because global colours are cool. Global colours automatically update when you change them. So now they're all global colours. All of my circles in here, I want to have a stroke on them with the darkest colour. So I'm applying that. And that is what we get. So let's zoom into that a little bit more so we can see it. Now we're still missing a part of this, which is we need straight lines on the left-hand edge of it. Easiest way to do that is with a table. So I'm going to draw that to the height that I need and pull it out. It's got one column of cells. It's got far too many rows of cells. I only actually need to match the circles that I've got, which is 6. So clicking in here and changing that to 6, pulling that down, and then widening it as wide as I need it. And although the colours aren't quite right, they line up perfectly. So back into here, I need to format the cells to match the circles. In my table palette, I can do that with the borders. So I want all of the borders selected. I want to choose a colour in here. So in my swatches, I'm going to choose my Sweet Paprika, and it's the darkest one at 0.5. And that is what that looks like. One more thing to do, which is select those again. I'm going to focus on the right-hand side. I don't want any stroke on that. So let's take that away. And now it looks like they all match. Let's get more formatting applied here. I want the outer ring to be white. The next one to be the lightest colour. So in the cell, the fill colour of the cell needs to be the lightest colour. Moving down to the next cell and choosing the next lightest and so forth. So just quickly repeating that. And that's the table part of it done. The next thing to do is the circles. So selecting the circle that I need, which is the outer one there, that is the lightest colour. That has not filled all of them. The reason that it looks like it has was that all of the circles were transparent. So next one up, keep moving in. And the middle one needs to be white. And that gives us virtually what we need. I am seeing a tiny little gap there, so I'm going to move that fractionally so it does match up, and that is the background, all but perfect. Next thing to do is to create the segments for this, 31 segments. To do that, I'm going to use the pen tool, and I need a straight line from the top edge, so click once, hold the Shift key down and move down to the top of the inner circle or the bottom edge of the table, depending on how you want to think of it, and click. That gives me the line. So let's zoom in and have a look at that. You can see it when it's selected. When I click away, you can't see it. It needs a stroke on it so we can see it. So making it 0.5, like all of the others. Now, if I were to rotate that, there is a rotation handle here. And if I were to rotate it, it would rotate around its centre, which is not what we want. So I'm going to use this tool here, which is the Enable Transform Origin tool. A long name to mean move the centre of rotation. With it selected and the object selected, you can see in the middle of it a circle. It's a blue circle. I'm going to drag that, and wherever I drag this to, that's going to be the new centre of rotation. Now I need this to rotate around the centre of the circle. So let's see that just by me rotating it. And now it's rotating around that centre. Perfect. So I'm moving it back to where it came from, and I'm zooming out, so you can see what happens when I do the next thing. So we can see all of it. There we go. I'm pressing the Enter key with the Move tool selected, and that gives us the Move Duplicate dialog box. Now this enables you to duplicate and or move shapes based on mathematics. Now I don't actually need to move this horizontally or vertically or whatever. I need to think about the rotation of it. I want to rotate it. But how far do I want to rotate it? Now this is where the maths comes in. My calculation was there are 360 degrees in a circle, but I'm only using 3/4 of the circle. So 360 multiplied by 0.75. That gives me 3/4 of the degrees in a circle. Then I need to divide that by 31 because I want 31 segments. And the answer to that is 8.7. So in my rotation, I'm going to put 8.7. But if you look at the preview, it's going the wrong way. So instead of 8.7, I need minus 8.7. And then the preview moves to the right-hand side, which is exactly where I need it. But I don't just want to move it. I need to put a tick in the duplicate box. And instead of 1 copy, I need 31 copies. And as soon as I move out of that, you can see preview of what you will get. And that is as near as I'm going to get. At that point, click OK, and I have all of those duplicate lines, which are creating segments. The eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed that over here, it's fractionally out, just due to the calculations. But not enough anyone's going to notice as long as we move that so it matches. And that has closed the gap. One last thing to do, which is to number each segment. That's why I have 2 170mm circles, one for the format and one for the text. So what I need to do to the text one is make it so that I'm adding text to a path. With the path selected, use the artistic text tool, and when I move over it, you get a wiggly line with a T on it. That is what will apply the text to it. Way too big, completely wrong, but it will work. Let's make some changes. So I'm going to make that 12 points. And the text I need to put in here is 01, 02, 03, and so forth. Luckily, that's something I have in a text file. Each of the numbers being separated by a tab. So selecting that and copying it, and back in here, pasting it in. Now obviously, doesn't look anything like right. We need to make a few changes. First of all, this is how we move these round. The green being the starting point and the red being the end point. Still nowhere near right, so Command and A to select them all. The font that I used for this was Oswald Stencil. The colour was the deepest from Sweet Paprika, and they're still not lined up quite right. First thing I need to do is to move the starting point so it's in the middle. I also here need to change the baseline. The baseline determines, in relation to the shape, where the text actually is. So if I put 50 in there, it puts it in the middle. If I put minus 50, it pushes it to the outside. And while 1 and 2 and 3, and possibly even 4, 5 and 6 line up, 31 doesn't line up at the bottom. What I need to do in here is with my paragraph panel, because the spacing is tab stops, the default spacing is 12.7. I had to play around with this, and I discovered that 12.9 worked perfectly. Now, when I say I play around with it, it really was trial and error. It's going to be based on the size of your font and your typeface, but it is possible to get these lined up, as you can see. And there you have it, one perfectly formatted habit tracker. Let's have a quick recap of all I did to create that. I used 9 circles, and I masked those circles, 25% of them with a rectangle. That was in the upper left-hand corner. Then I added a table for the straight part of the habit tracker. I formatted the strokes, formatted the fill. For the segments, I added a straight line. To duplicate that shape, I needed to change the centre of rotation using the Enable Transform Origin tool. I added text on a path to one of the 170mm shapes, added 1 to 31 to the text path. I used Oswald stencil at 12 points, and then changed the default tab stops to 12.9mm, which meant that the numbers lined up with the segments. If you want new tutorials and tips and tricks on a regular basis, check out my free training at elainegiles.com/VIP. Hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss future tutorials. And if you have any requests for specific tutorials, be sure to contact me. I would love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.